I've always wanted to do Oprah. I always wanted to be like the Oprah thing and to talk to people. I love talking. Yap, all my life, you know, so I'm in the right field. I love asking questions. I love taking really complicated topics and breaking them down, which is the reason why I chose to do broadcasting. And so it you know, my project, Districtly Speaking, kind of was born out of that desire to connect with people, everyday people, about issues that I knew that they cared about, but I felt like they weren't always getting the information. And so I would have these like really long, deep conversations in my living room with my friends, or we'd be out to dinner and we'd have these long conversations. And a good friend of mine, actually the same friend who was just like, you need to change your life and become a Christian. The same friend who walked me through that experience is the same one who was just like, I think you should really kind of take this out to the community. But I remember it was like 15 people that RSVP'd. So I'm like, okay, this will be a good little crowd. And it was like 40 people in her house. I was like, y'all did not RSVP. But anyway, it was great. It was such a great turnout. And I put together this panel of kind of local people in politics, you know, young people, young professionals, and they were talking about politics in a way that was conversational and relatable, but also very kind of informative. And that is exactly what I was going for. And I was able to, you know, facilitate that conversation, allowing them the space to say what's on their mind, but also making sure that we got to hear from people in the audience. And I'm like, I like this. I like this kind of this vibe. I like these kind of moments. And so on October 18th, 2011, I launched my very first town hall at the MLK Library. And it was around the time when the MLK statue was coming about and the whole dedication of that statue was coming out. And so I had my first town hall, and it was about the legacy of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. I was so glad people showed up. I was so excited. And so I'm like, okay, the library is free, it's accessible, people can get there, I can do this after work. This is DC, the city of networking and happy hours galore, so this would be like right up that alley. And people here are smart and they're into politics, so nobody would be bored. And so out of that came Districtly Speaking, and it was perfect. I lived in DC, I worked in DC, I played in DC, so I'm like, it's going to be a DC kind of branded event. As I was talking to my friends from church, I'm like, you guys should come out too. Like, you know, politics is nothing that Christians should be afraid of. This is part of our kind of world dynamic, and it absolutely was a part of the stories we read in the Bible. There was a political power in play. There were social issues of biblical times that needed to be addressed, and there were people in the front lines trying to, you know, make things better. And so they started coming out, and I remember the women's ministry leader of my church, she was just like, you know, this is really your ministry. And I'm like, oh, I'm not preaching no Bible, I'm not talking about God, and you know, this is not like a ministry. I was just like, how? And she's just like, having a space that's safe, that's free from any kind of craziness, that where people can have intelligent dialogue. And for me, what I was seeing over, you know, the months was that my friends, my Christian friends, were bringing all kinds of friends to this event, like their coworkers and their family members. But to see how God used my passion and my heart for people, for dialogue, for a political and social conversation, to see him use that in a way where it could, like, you know, bring all of these worlds that I have together, you know, my world at church, my world at work, my networking world, like all of that in the same room. That was very, very special for me, and that helped me kind of relaunch in a very different way. So I'm on this mission to bring politics and social issues to the forefront. And so, you know, I think for me, if there's a pet peeve, it's just people just not knowing what's going on in the world, just not hearing, and just kind of having this attitude where their faith is just kind of like that's it. I don't need to care about anything else. And I really don't see Jesus in that way at all. I really don't see him not understanding the issues of the day. Because how can you challenge anything you don't understand? You know, how can you be a voice if you don't know what people are talking about? You know, and if we want to have this kind of influence and this impact in the world as followers of Jesus, then we must know what's going on in the world. I'm not saying be of the world, but we're in it, right? You go to work, you do this, you do that, we're in it. So why not understand the issues that are being talked about and, you know, be in front of it and have that kind of impact, set the tone, you know, that kind of thing. So I know it's difficult, and I know politics and religion do not go hand in hand, and you know, it's complicated, I get it. And it's sensational, it's all these different things, all these different lenses that we put on it. But I think at the core of what it is, it's, for me, what it's become, it's just like, you know, that's part of my career, is to understand, you know, all these complicated issues. But, you know, when I go home and I'm thinking about my walk with God and Jesus and how I can be a leader and how I can be a servant, these are the things that appeal to me. These are the things that I can talk about in spaces and have people feel comfortable, you know, having those conversations, which is the biggest thing. To get people to talk about how they feel about an issue, we take that for granted so often. It's really hard for people to say, this is where I stand, this is what I do. It's really hard for people to feel comfortable and confident to say these things because they're so afraid of what people are going to think. And we're guilty of that too. But I think helping, you know, being equipped and understanding the issues and feeling like you can come to a Jonelle Henry event and say what's on your mind and no one is going to make you feel little or make you feel wrong, I think that is the beginning of something special.